SBRC is the Islands Waste Management Facility, and basically our mission is to improve the island's environment by minimizing the volume of waste going into the landfill and maximizing on the items we recovered from the waste stream and processing those into new products. Regarding organic waste, we receive about 150 tons of green waste per day, and some of that is mixed with other items that cannot be used for processing, but the balance we actually would process that into different products. So we look at producing mulches, composting, animal bedding, wood chips. So we are turning that material that would have previously gone into the landfill in bulk into different products.
We undertook a project with the SBRC to improve the efficiency of their composting. At present, the SBRC is constructing a large-scale in-vessel facility which will utilize all of the organic waste the SBRC receives to produce compost in bulk. For a large part of our project, we sought to mimic the environment of this large-scale composter. This is to help us determine optimal feedstock inputs based on what the SBRC currently receives. Our project consisted of 5 main phases. First, we took care of the old compost piles and ran some experiments on them. Then, we designed and built small-scale composters, determined a feedstock recipe to put in them, and continuously monitored the piles. Finally, we ran further tests on the SBRC's commercial compost and created a manual for them to test future compost samples.
Previous McGill interns had begun 2 compost piles last year. We set out to record the temperature, then trommel the matured compost into various screen sizes. The mini trommel seen here had a 1/2-inch screen size. From the fallout, we hand-screened 3/8 and 1/8 inch compost and got them bagged. Then, we commenced our first planting trials to see if particle size had an effect on seedling germination. We planted lettuce, beans, and pepper. After conducting some statistical analysis, we concluded, much to our dismay, that there was no correlation.
In order to test our compost recipe, we wanted to create an environment similar to the large-scale composter. We wanted to maximize the control we had over the composting environment, which includes heat and aeration. Aeration is important as it allows aerobic bacteria to accelerate the composting process. That's where the second phase of our project comes in. We designed and constructed mini composters that we would use to test our feedstock recipe. The composters were built from recycled wood pallets. There's one on each side and one on the bottom, which allows proper drainage. The front was attached with screws to allow for easy removal, just like a door. We had to adapt their design to fit all the different shapes and sizes of pallets, such as by nailing on more wooden planks. Our options were limited by spacing between the pallet planks, for they had to be big enough to fit the aeration pipes. We encountered many challenges, forcing us to adapt and improvise along the way. Shade cloth was attached to all pallets, which allowed air to flow through, but kept the material from falling through the wood. Cardboard was stapled to the shade cloth to insulate the compost pile. Holes were drilled into PVC pipes every 8 to 10 centimeters and were run through the composters to allow for aeration. Plastic tarps, held down with hooked bungee cords to allow easy removal, were placed above each composter to protect the compost from the sun and the rain. Here's a final look at the mini composters. The image on the left excludes the front door and tarp.
Well, we have wood chips, we have green waste, we have coconut and wood that we use, we have manure, we have seaweed. Those are the different products that we have.
Our next step was to determine optimal feedstock inputs. We decided to test 2 recipes. Both recipes had tree trimmings, chicken manure, and coconut husks with shredded pallet wood. And the second recipe, we added sargassum to see if it would speed up the decomposition process. And we thought it might aid the beach cleanup process if it could be composted. So tree trimmings tend to have high carbon content, which complements the high nitrogen content of chicken manure. And shredded pallet wood acts as the bulking agent to increase aeration. The ideal C/N ratio and the moisture content are 2 really important criteria to control in the composting process. So we use the Cornell compost calculator to calculate the ideal ratios of the ingredients to meet these criteria. Then we took to UE with the help of Jeff Chandler to calculate moisture or to measure moisture content and bulk density of each ingredient. And finally, the ingredients were thoroughly mixed and put into the composters.
Shree, what are you doing right now?
I'm measuring the mass of chicken manure, and it smells delicious.
It smells amazing.
Absolutely delicious.
In case you guys can't tell, I can't breathe through my nose.
Cindy's outside because she can't handle it.
She ran away.
She might be throwing up right now. We'll keep you updated.
We'll keep you updated.
And here we see the compost being mixed by the claw and put into the composters.
It was important that we continue to monitor the piles. We took daily temperature measurements with the help of our supervisor, Kyla, and watered them regularly. Along the way, many changes needed to be made, including adding more chicken manure and tree trimmings and closing some of the pipes to reduce aeration. Our piles ultimately did not reach the critical temperature in the first few days to kickstart the composting process. Therefore, we were unfortunately able to see this experiment to completion. We would recommend to the SBRC to make adjustments to the design in order to pinpoint whether it was an issue of insulation or aeration. Then the composters can be used for future experimentation to test feedstock recipes. However, we did see some interesting growths.
As the last part of our project, we decided to test compost as a component of soilless potting media.
Okay, at SBRC, we are actually producing 2 different sizes of compost, which is the 1/2 inch and the 3/8 of an inch. And that's mainly because those are the 2 sieves we have available. And also we do not just those 2 sizes, we do a 3/4 of an inch. The 2 first ones I've mentioned, those are the one that we package because it's a finer, nicer looking product for packaging. Whereas the 3/4 of an inch, that's the one that we sell by the bulk to truck drivers and to the big landscapers and gardeners. The finished compost is normally used as a soil conditioner. So they sometimes mix it with soil that's poor in quality. Also, in some cases, it's used for seed germination as well as a potting mix.
We created potting mixes with the SBRC's 2 commercially produced compost sizes, 1/2 inch and 3/8 inch, consisting of 2 parts compost, 2 parts coconut coir, and 1 part perlite. In addition to comparing the 2 particle sizes, we had a control which contained no fertilizer. We used Osmocote for fertilizer. Again, we grew peppers, beans, and lettuce. We again went to UE to take measurements of the components of the soilless mix. First, we had to run our samples through the shaker. Here, we're measuring pH, and we use these buffers to calibrate our meter. And here, we're measuring electrical conductivity, or EC, which determines soil fertility. We found that the two particle sizes are very similar in pH and EC, and that there was no statistically significant difference between the relative seed germination and relative root growth.
To conclude, we found there is no difference between compost particle sizes in regards to seedling germination. The SBRC can therefore market both sizes similarly as media for seedling germination. We recommend they phase out the smaller size to increase efficiency and waste less material in the screening process. Our mini composters can be used by the SBRC to test future feedstock recipes. We recommend they restart the composting process with changes to the aeration pipes mentioned earlier to troubleshoot and diagnose the issue. Additionally, the manual we created can help test the quality of finished compost. Overall, this was an excellent learning experience, and we're grateful for the opportunity to aid the SBRC in developing sustainable composting techniques.